Remember, you cannot buy these in stores, people. You cannot buy these in stores. Hey, Cable Guy Matt, if Cable Guy Matt's wife is working at Tim Hortons tonight, I do have an order coming in from the young daughter, to go through the drive-thru with an ice cap. I hope the wife is making the ice cap tonight. Aiden, how are you, my friend? My brother Eugene in Philly, how are you? I love you, man. R. Sprockets, welcome to our channel from New York City. New York City! I hope you're a Yankees fan, brother. Susie Cutesy, good to see you. Hi, Jenny. Sir Wolf, thank you for coming on in. Scrolling down. Where are we here? The Ronald Penton is here, everyone. The Ronald Penton. Here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Oh, it's that time again, everyone. I know the goddess in Nova Scotia is all excited about this because we mark the 2021 return of one of our favorite cryptid people around here, the gorgeous, the talented, the perfectly teethed Varla Ventura. Varla is the author of Varla Ventura's Paranormal Parlor, Ghosts, Banshees, Seances, Tales of True Hauntings, and I threw in Banshees there because I read the line below. But nonetheless, she is so talented, you can find any of her books right across major bookstores across North America or on her website, varlaventura.net. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Varla Ventura, how you doing? Good to have you back.
Oh, it's so nice to be back. Thank you. I've missed you.
We've missed you too.
I've missed you and your audience, although I have been listening in here and there.
I caught you the one time.
I know.
You didn't think I would, but I actually did. I caught you because you tweeted out something, I believe. But nonetheless, we're glad to have you back because you are such an important cog in our wheel, and we absolutely love you here, and you are one of our fan favorites to all of our listeners. So thank you for always taking the time to come on this show and talk monsters with us.
Well, thank you for always inviting me to keep coming back. I figured after the first time, once you wanted me back, that it must have gone okay. So here we are. Been doing this for a while, right?
Yeah, but it's something we just got to continue. Something we got to continue. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hereby vow.
Every time we bring you on, we have new people listening. And for the people who've heard you before, they probably already got the breakdown. But for those who are brand new to the show, how does a beautiful lady such as yourself get so intrigued with monsters?
I have loved the strange and the paranormal since I was a really young kid. I was raised in a sort of unconventional environment, perhaps, that may have contributed to it. My mother is very witchy and taught us a lot of tarot and sort of psychic arts as young kids, my sister and I especially. So I think that, coupled with the fact that when I was probably about 7 years old, we lived in a city, and my parents kind of just like uprooted everything and we went to this very, very rural part of Northern California where they still live off the grid. They were like off grid before it was even called that. Basically, they didn't want to have to pay an electric bill. So it was pretty remote, pretty far out there. And I was left to commune with whatever was in the woods, as were many of the other children up there. So I think those two things kind of just started forming this love of the supernatural, the fairy, the folklore, and of course, monsters.
I got to ask you, because for so many people who investigate these type of cryptids or aliens or ghosts, they've never had an experience of their own. It's the intrigue and the curiosity that just makes them want to find answers to all of these sightings that people are having. How about you? What have you been associated with?
I've had numerous, I would put things more in like the paranormal category. Certainly I've had a few kind of like unexplained UFO type things and have spotted a few fairy-like creatures in the woods here and there, in particular when I was a child. But the paranormal sort of, I guess, more like ghostly encounters have been the most consistent from a very young age. I think I was like 5 or something the first time I saw like a ghosty specter thing. And I haven't actually seen that many. A lot of it's been just like physical presence or like cold hands on your head or waking you up at night, things sitting on the bed. But I've had so many that I just can't, you can explain away one or two, but when you you yourself know that you've had numerous unexplained experiences, you really you can't just dismiss it as some kind of, it's some kind of trick of the mind or whatever. You can talk yourself in and out of these things at the moment, but when you start gathering a lifetime of experiences and in doing so encounter other people who have had a lifetime of experiences and are willing to share those with you, not just, supernatural experiences, cryptid experiences, ghosts, unexplained phenomenon, coincidences, things that just kind of set you in this, they put you in this mindset that we really don't know fully what's going on at any given time. And just when we think we do, something very strange and bizarre might happen. So, I've had a lot of experiences, but so I don't know what came first. Probably I had an experience and that made me more curious. I'll tell you though, like interestingly, and I've told this story before, but my sister and I were using this Ouija board at one point when we were kids, and we were real little. We were like 7 and 8 or 8 and 9 or something like that. And the planchette was moving all around and it was spelling out the name of this like girl ghost from this grave that, happened to be a grave on the property next door, this lone grave, which is a great story in and of itself. And I remember looking at my sister's face, she's older than me, and looking at her knowing that she wasn't pushing it because she looked kind of freaked out. And I knew I wasn't pushing it. And but the point being, our response to that was that my mom came, she took the board away when we told her that we were talking with something. She was like, uh-oh, we just opened a portal. We better get rid of this thing. And I wanted just to do it more. I wanted to figure out where my mom had hidden that board and just sit and do it by myself if I had to. Whereas my sister was like, she was good. She was done. She didn't need to do it anymore. It was like, okay, that was kind of freaky. So we were actually talking fairly recently about that experience, although she's very interested in the supernatural and the paranormal, but she didn't want to keep touching the stove, so to speak. And I certainly did.
My goodness. So growing up in a family like that, where this is the norm, the weird and strange, you're probably a couple years younger than me. And, because look at me, I look so old. and you have nice teeth. And and
It
anyways,
could be dentures.
I doubt it. But I do have to ask you, for you growing up like that, it was normal to you. But for the majority of us who didn't grow up around Ouija boards or spirits or psychic people, it was, we looked at that as kind of strange. And I mean that with all due respect. But
oh, yeah,
how did
absolutely.
you balance life's, the what people perceive as normalcy in their lives comparatively to what they would look at your life and say, yeah, that's that weirdo family over there?
I don't know if I ever really did, Dave, to be honest with you. I mean, there was a certain point when I realized that, like, oh, a lot of people have like been raised to like go to church and I don't know, just not believe in these types of things. But I don't, I mean, first, for one thing, I think I surrounded myself with a lot of like-minded individuals. I tended to gravitate toward the artists and creative types and other writers and people who kind of had an alternate view of the world. Although I've only met a couple of people who really have kind of a shared ingrained perspective in the way that I do, that I'm not related to. And one of them is a friend of mine who's an artist. And his mom is a professional astrologer and therapist and did past life regressions and stuff like long ago when that wasn't even really a thing that you could look up on the internet. And so his worldview was colored much in the same way that mine was growing up. And so, we can drop casual astrological references and know exactly what that means and not, not have to like explain ourselves or look it up. So there's sort of an ingrained occultish element to our mindset. But I guess, once I realized that other people didn't necessarily have that background, it just made me sort of broaden my view of. I actually find it really fascinating when people who have been raised in an environment that didn't foster that have experiences. I don't know that it makes one more credible or the other, but it just kind of shows that something like the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal, the afterlife, this is a unifying topic for many people across lifestyles and worldviews. So, I mean, it's always nice when you meet a gaggle of freaks, then you feel like you can stay up all night and talk with them about these topics.
I snorted there for a second. I snorted there for a second. Oh my goodness. I'm a little embarrassed by now. I'm blushing a little bit. But no, I understand that and I can appreciate that. But for the majority of us who've fallen into this because of one reason or another, curiosity or experience, I mean, we look at this and we're just kind of like wide open, eyes wide open to the phenomena as it happens all around us. But for you growing up in that, where the phenomena has always been real, do you see a difference between the way you act now and, say, newcomers because maybe they've moved into a haunted house, never believed before, or that maybe they are, new to seeing UFOs or whatever it may be?
I mean, I think the only difference is probably that, like, anytime someone's new into, I mean, this isn't a field that you're new into because you're just like, oh, I've always wanted to Google Sasquatch, right? You're drawn into this type of topic and community either because you've had an experience or you have a sort of like, a belief in, at least in the back of your mind, that there's something else out there. And that is probably based on an experience that you've had in your life that kind of brings you to that. So I don't think there's really like one's more valid or the other. I just, sometimes people might ask individuals who have been part of this community for longer questions that, we may or may not be able to answer, because even if as you could research this for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, however, dedicate your whole life to it. And you're just going to find more questions to try and fill in. So, I mean, the only thing I would say is that I do think that, especially, like, I came into this from like a world of being taught firsthand and reading from books, right? And then being taken to strange rituals and things like that in meadows in the night. But I think, especially with the internet, people just do need to enter into it cautiously. And that might be the number one thing, is like, you can't just believe everything that's out there. Now, flip side of that, don't necessarily, you have to go into it with an open mind. But sometimes when you're coming from a completely different background and you come into this world of like the supernatural and the paranormal, you might think that everything people tell you is true, but you have to use your instincts in the same way, because, not dismissing or calling any particular experience out, but I can usually tell when I'm talking with someone if I think their story is authentic or not. So, and that's my own judgment to pass based on whether or not I want to include their story in my book. It doesn't really reflect their, I'm not going to go up to them and say, you're full of it. I might think it, but.
All right. You know what? Let's just get right to it right off the bat for our resident nurse, who takes care of us, Goddess Michelle.
Yay.
Mermaids.
Hi.
Do we have any new mermaid stories, or merman?
I've got a cool story that she's very well versed in sort of mermaid lore and such, but I was reading in this old book, which we'll get to the dog man part of it later, but I was reading in this old book. It was published in 1880, so it was probably written in 78, 79, and it was published by a man, or it was written by a man named William Wirt Sykes, and he was the Welsh consulate general from the United States, living in Wales. And he lived there for a great number of years and was fascinated by the culture, and actually spent a lot of time interviewing and talking with people about fairy and folklore. And I actually came upon a cool thing that I had never included this in my book before, and I even wrote out phonetically how to say it. And again, many people out there may have heard of this, including the mermaid goddess Michelle. But this is sort of a counterpart to a mermaid, and it would be called the Grigagad Awen, which translates to a wife of hell, or a wife of the lower world. Lower world being the belief during, the Gaelic belief or the Celtic belief. Hell was a Christian thing that came along later. So the translations are often interchanged. And these were sort of like fairy elf type creatures that dwelled in inland water and lakes, rivers, but in particular up in the high mountains, where you'd find like a high mountain lake, and you would find these sort of water nymphs that were known to sort of lay in that shadowy domain of the under the water, and then sometimes give passerbyers good luck and good fortune, but other times enchant them and cause them to drown. And they're she laughs. So not unlike mermaids, usually very beautiful, very enchanting, a little more ethereal, and a little less, fish-like, but certainly a water-dwelling spirit. And there were a number of kind of water-type witchy, haggy spirits that kind of are connected to this. You have, and people may have heard of some of these for sure, like Jenny Greenteeth, which I think would be a great Halloween costume sometime. Jenny Green Teeth. She's also known as Wicked Jenny or Ginny Green Teeth. And she's very similar to another creature called Peg Powler, and they basically live in like bogs and inner water and streams, and they really like to drown children. That's kind of their thing.
Pleasant.
So yeah, and they're usually very hard to see, and then they kind of like come up out of like all of the green things and algae and stuff that are growing on these like semi-fetid waters, and sort of lurk out and snatch children. So you're not supposed to get too close to the edge of the water. And then there's similar things in the rivers, and in fact, even in the River Seine, the river that runs through Paris, there's a Lorelei, which is an enchanting kind of mermaid-like creature that can lure people in to the river, and then they are caught in the current and swiftly taken away. So that's what I got.
You know what, though? I will say this. If you respect nature, nature will respect you back. That's one thing I learned. Like, when I used to fish this river all the time, and at least once to twice a year, I would slip into the river. And sometimes it would be fast water. But the river never took me. And I bring this up because I think that a lot of nature is very connected to people and to monsters and its protectors.
Yes,
Okay? And the reason why I say that is every year when I caught my first salmon, and I started this just out of the blue. I don't know why I did, but every year when I caught my first fish of the year, I would look at it, and after I landed it, I would say thank you, and then I would sit with it in the river until it was good to go back. Just sit with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let it get its energy and go back. And I had a First Nations elder who I met with one day, and we were talking about that river because his reserve is just off that river, and they get a lot of their fish out of that river. And he says, you will never die in that river. And every year there's like 4 or 5 fishermen who drown in that river. He goes, but you will never die. He goes, because the river knows that you respect it by putting that first fish back every year and just sitting and enjoying what nature is doing. He goes, the river, I promise you, will never take you. And one time I came close to slipping into the rapids with my waders starting to fill up.
Oof.
And it never took me.
Yeah, well, I think that you see a real connection as well in like the in sort of fairy and folklore and monsters, but also in the plant kingdom, that you will see frequently plants that grow in a place in the forest where you shouldn't step because it's a protector. And so I think that connection between the don't eat the red cap, and then the little blood-soaked goblin that has a red cap, I think that those stories are interchangeable in that way, because there is a sort of force of nature, and there are these creatures that come out of it to protect it. So whether you see that as a poisonous little mushroom or some kind of poison oak that makes you itch, or if it's actually a goblin that grabs you, and the same, and you see that. It's a great example with the river, because that is something that I think about a lot with the mermaids, because I, especially when I lived on the Pacific coast, I used to swim off the northern California. Yep, we're going to break.
We're going to go to break here. Varla Ventura and I listening to stories, not paying attention to time, but that's why we have music to take us out during commercial. VarlaVentura.net is our website. We continue Monster Talk on Our Cryptid World with Varla right after this. Varla.
Valet.
Varla.
So I listened to some of your interview with Lon Strickler, who I love. Lon Strickler,
Me too.
He's just lovely. And
I had to get
laughed.
I had to get a little pissy with Lon there because he shaved his beard there for a while.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. So I got a little pissy with him about that.
Yeah, he needs to stay in the club.
Exactly. Anyways, Lon, sorry for interrupting.
Brotherhood. the Brotherhood of Beards.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me, I want to send you some information about a podcast by these guys. It's called Three Beards, and I should introduce you and see if they're looking for guests, because I think you would be they're funny. They're really funny. They all have great beards. You'd fit right in. It'd be like Beardo party.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I laughed because you pretty much in the first, 2 minutes dropped Vegas in there. You're like, I really want to go to Vegas.
I
need to go to Vegas.
Jonesing for Vegas
and we've
right
been talking about that for a year, right?
Yes.
And actually, I think even before that, we were talking about it. Before all the COVID stuff, you were talking about going to Vegas. So I just laughed. It was great. Well, yep.
Yes,
Vegas.
The Vegas party. Everybody is waiting. Everybody in the chat room, we're all like, when's this shit gonna end? So that way we can get down there and make things happen, right? Hold on, I gotta mess my hair up a little bit. There we go. There we go. I had a whole this much trimmed yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah. That
Big
much.
news.
That much.
Yeah. Hey, do you feel weaker?
No. Got to keep the hair healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the thing I keep thinking is
Oh, hold on. Heather has updated us, letting us know the strip joints in Las Vegas have officially opened again.
Oh, well. I didn't know they closed.
It's a start.
Yeah. Well, the border's still closed, right?
That's okay. It's just a start. That's a sign of positivity. Look for the positive. Mm-hmm. I mean, not that I've ever been to a strip club in Vegas before.
Oh, no.
I've never been to Treasures. Ever.
I don't.
More than 5 times.
Or this other one that I know by heart. God, I actually used to work the door at a strip club when I was I think I was 22 years old or something in San Francisco. And I hated it. All I wanted to do was punch every person who came through the door in the teeth. I don't know why. I was just I don't know if I'm a good door person, but some people like being punched in the teeth. So I guess, they usually paired me with a nicer girl.
I bet you're a good brawler. I totally bet you're a good brawler.
Oh, probably not anymore, now that I'm old. But yeah, I've been thrown out of a couple of bars for fighting.
Mm-hmm. Sean in Trenton, Ontario, welcome to our chat room. I am in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Figure that one out on a map. There's a gas station, a lumber yard, a post office, an airport, a golf course, and a supermarket. That's it. Oh, there is a restaurant, too, inside the supermarket. 2 lakes, lots of bears, lots of deer. Oh, I can't spell that name that's in there with the alien head and popcorn. I can't spell your name, but welcome to the show. Welcome. By the way, tomorrow night we have a guest change due to some family stuff. Erica Lukes will not be able to join us, so I'm going to bring in the guys from UFO Garage who we had on with the round table, and they are going to come kick things up about it with us. So that'll be the change for tomorrow night. So, yeah. Hey, Raul, how you doing? All right, guys. Thank you to Raz Grizz. Thank you to Dolly. Thank you to Fapster and my Zoe Buttercup with the cutest smile for the super chats. Let's get going with the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with the lovely and talented Varla Ventura. She is the queen of the cryptids around here. And you know what I forgot to do, Varla, right off the top? Tell you about my weird night.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about your weird night.
Totally weird. So, after last night's show, I go upstairs and I decide, I have this routine, okay? I go upstairs, I grab a little snack, I take a sip of water or orange juice, and then, I walk off to bed, and, I crawl into bed. I always lay down on my stomach. I play my little game that I play for a couple of minutes, usually about 20 or 30. Then I find something on YouTube to listen to pass out. So anyways, I was listening to an interview with Lou Elizondo last night, who will be on this show on February 23rd. And I fell asleep. Not a big deal. Most of us do when we're in bed at night. Most of us do. Nothing out of the natural there. But then I started dreaming. And I started dreaming like really weird stuff. There was this it was dark outside, and there was this really dark, like black glass type of hotel that was about 12, 15 stories high. And inside, I recognized a bunch of ufologists. I recognized Science Bob there. I recognized Olaf Phillips there. There was a few more that I think were there. I just, dreams, you just can't picture it. And then the aliens came. I saw three little gray guys. And I remember Science Bob giving me this weird, very stern story about be careful. And I was like, okay, maybe Bob, you aren't the guy I thought you were, and this is all in my dream. And I woke up this morning, and it felt like I hadn't slept a wink. I woke up, and I knew I had slept. I knew I slept. But I did not feel like I slept a wink. My body was sore all over, like that tired sore.
Oh.
Not painful, but that tired sore, like holy cow, like I could barely move. I was sluggish. I gave myself a little bit of a hot shower this morning because old Davey likes that. I didn't loosen up the joints, nothing. But I'll tell you, it beat the tar out of me. And to be honest with you, we're now almost 24 hours later, and I'm still feeling the effects of this.
Wow.
I don't know whether it was just a dream or something really strange happened, right? I don't know.
So let's talk a little bit more about these gray guys that you saw. Can you describe them? Like, were they smaller than you?
Oh, yeah.
Did they approach you?
Oh, there were three of them.
Where were they? Were they in the hotel?
There was one that was alone, and they were like chasing down people, like all the ufologists, right? There was one that was alone, and the other two were working in a tandem. don't use the word tandem around here enough.
It's a great word. Okay, so and they were gray?
Yeah, they were the typical, prototypical grays, the tiny bodies, the big head, the almond-shaped eyes. Beautiful. Really,
Did you feel scared?
Hesitant.
But not scared.
Not fearful. Usually when you see aliens, you run it the opposite direction anyways. Because it usually means that something's going to happen that they haven't asked permission for.
Wow. Well, that's pretty intense.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the heck happened, but I will say this. I do have a run-on of instances. I don't remember my dreams. I don't. Very, very rarely do I remember them. But the ones that always have aliens in them, I remember.
You always remember. Interesting.
Therefore, in my assumption, I could be completely wrong here, okay? And I'm sure some skeptics out there will say, Dave, you're just, eating too much cookies before bed or something like that. And I don't eat cookies, by the way. Some skeptics out there will sit there and say, you know what? It's just imagination. It's just dream. Aliens are a trigger for you, and therefore that's why you remember those dreams, whatever it may be. But I do know this, that it always feels like I got abducted after I remember my dream of aliens. There you go.
With that same kind of like body feeling and...
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty intense. That was last night. I didn't sleep well, but that my excuse is completely not aliens. So.
Could be. Could be. So I have a couple of intuitives that I trust looking into this, trying to figure out what happened. Was it just a dream or was it more? I am waiting. I'm receiving Reiki and healing as we speak.
Well, I can tell you what I would do in that situation, or what I do in a situation where I have had a really intense dream that either disturbed me or I loved it and I wanted to get back to it, or it felt unconcluded, as I go to sleep and go back into that dream. And I don't know if that's something you would actually feel comfortable doing, because that would be one way of figuring out if it was a dream or it was an experience. If you try to like lucid dream your way back into it and you can't, then it's more likely that it was an experience versus, I don't know, if you're not much of a person who remembers their dreams, it might take more than, one or two tries to get back into that dream. But you could put yourself into like a trancey type state and see if you can re-enter that part of your consciousness and see if you can learn more about, the location. Was it San Francisco?
I don't know where it was. Don't know.
That's pretty cool, though. I mean, it's pretty unexplained that you'd be that raked over from it.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't usually happen, right? I mean, it's one thing to have a really intense dream, and it's another thing to wake up not feeling very rested. But it's an entirely other thing to wake up feeling like something's poking you.
my knees and my ankles, I've been like struggling to walk today. That's how tired my legs are.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Hasn't been fun. Now I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there who will sit there and say, this idiot's doing it for ratings. This idiot's doing it for showmanship. No, I'm honestly in pain. Honestly, I'm in pain right now. I'm just toughening that out because I'm a good Canadian kid.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
That's right.
You've got the hockey blood.
It's hockey
blood.
Feel
no pain.
No, rarely. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, one of the top authors in North America when it comes to the cryptids. Now, you got some weird, strange cryptids that you were able to bring on forward that we're going to talk like real nasty little goons here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, one of the Do you want to talk about the Dog Man, or you want to save that for a little bit later?
Let's save the Dog Man for a little later.
Let's save the Dog Man for a little bit later. So, yeah, I mean, in the book that I wrote, the Fairies, Pookas, and Changelings book, I actually included the full text of this story about this Japanese goblin. And the thing is just for anyone who's not familiar with how my take on fairies, I take the old world approach to fairies, which is that they are not just these like fluttering little things that are there to pollinate your garden and bring you good luck. There's a whole realm and a whole kingdom of fairies, many different kinds of creatures. Many of them lurk in the dark corners and aren't always particularly savory and usually frighten people because they show them a glimpse into the other world. And you and I have talked about this before, but frequently, in fact, I was even showing you at the very beginning of when you patched me in here, I was reading through this old book and I found it was published in 1880, and I found this picture that this person had sketched of a puka. And that's one of those words that gets passed around a lot. For some people, it means just fairy in general. For other people, it means sort of like a haunting spirit. I define that as a shapeshifter that changes from like rabbit or horse and is this kind of like thing that appears and tries to frighten people and sort of shake them out of whatever whatever path they're on, literally and figuratively. So, but in any case, this drawing looked just like a weird little alien drawing, like so much so the big head, the oversized head, and it had this very primitive kind of appearance to it that we've talked about this before, that in looking back through fairy and folklore, you'll find many instances of things pinching you in the night and scratching you that we might have attributed to poltergeist, or we might attribute to some other kind of phenomenon, and that there's this folkloric record. So whether that means that, the folk tales are just a version of the same story that we're now telling. And you see these kinds of things around the world. So the Japanese goblin in particular, again, I wrote this out for myself phonetically, so I would try and actually get it right. But it's the Japanese goblin Adachigahara. And I first came upon this story just reading old books, and there was this pretty fantastic cannibalistic goblin story. In a lot of cultures, including... y'all can't see, well, some of you can see Dave's face when I said fabulous and cannibalistic in the same.
I'm a meal. I'm not one of them appetizers. I'm a meal.
Forget Tim Hortons. We're going to Dave's. So, in many cultures, in particular in the British Isles, goblins are more favorable. They're equated with domestic fairies. They're often considered to be good luck. In some cases, the term is interchangeable or believed to be derived from the leprechaun, who is the cobbler of the fairy kingdom. And so coblin and then goblin. There are Welsh words. There are Dutch words. There are all these words that kind of mush together to become what we know as a goblin. But in Japan, the equivalent of the goblin is basically described as a cannibalistic woman, the spirit of a cannibalistic woman, frequently shown with a knife or an axe. And the story that I came upon is the story of a holy man wandering the mountains in Japan and seeing as it grows dark, there's a light in the woods, and he goes toward this light and sees a little hut and knocks on the door and asks for shelter for the night. And so an old woman lets him in and says, of course you can come in, but whatever you do, do not open that door in the back. Do not open that other door. You can sit here. I have like no food. I don't have much for you. I'm going to go gather fire or wood for the fire. So she goes out, disappears into the wood, and he sits there and he waits and he waits and he waits and he waits. And finally he can't take it anymore, of course, right? So he opens this door and it's full of skulls and bones. And just as he's realizing this, he looks and he realizes that she's out there gathering wood to stoke the fire, to boil him and eat him. And he dashes away very quickly, probably saved by God or some version thereof, and lives to tell the tale of his encounter with this goblin, who again is frequently portrayed as a woman, not unlike the Banshee, the Irish Banshee, but a little more vicious. The Irish Banshee is not known to be cannibalistic or murderous, although, people have been driven mad and leapt off cliffs and things. So there's a lot of different beliefs in how this goblin spirit came to be. Some people say that she was like a woman of high breeding who got very sick. And the only way, this actually reminds me a lot of the Elizabeth Bathory vampire story. So she was this very well-to-do woman and she got very sick. And the only way that she could get better was from the blood of human blood. Some stories say children's blood, and they would bring this blood in, and she was miraculously cured until one day the goblin which was a horrible person, basically an executioner going out there and killing people for her, got sick of her and killed her, and then now she became this like spirit. I will say, seems a little sexist to me, but all right. it could well be. But anyway, she's a murderous goblin that is, a lot of times you'll see old drawings with sort of like a knife and some pretty freaky things. And there's a few other similar cannibalistic. There's an ogre that there's a legend near Kyoto about this ogre that lives near these gates and will snatch people, and they never return, so it's just assumed that it's cannibalistic. Although, by definition, if you're not human and you eat humans, are you a cannibal? Don't you have to be a human that eats human to eat your own kind?
I'm going to be honest. I've never really thought about that. Okay. I've never really gone down like I don't walk down the street and say, "Oh, that guy would look good in a good stew with tomatoes and some hot sauce," or
Bumblefoot.
Exactly. No. I honestly have never thought about that, and I would say probably 99.8% of our audience, because there is some 2% that you just 0.2% you just don't know about. But I would say that 99.8% have probably never thought about cannibalism either. Just saying.
Yeah. So I resonated with 2% of your crowd is what you're saying.
0.2 to be matter of fact.
Well, you asked for a monster, and I think that's pretty monstrous.
No,
I'm not condoning this behavior. Oh. Let's get that clear. I am not condoning the behavior at all. I just merely telling the story, merely retelling the folkloric record for your audience.
Well, see, the strange thing about that, I'm surprised it's not from Australia, because everything there eats you. Everything. There isn't a creature in Australia, even their tiny marsupials, that don't want to feed on humans. In the water, out of the water, doesn't matter. Everything wants to kill you there.
Except the mermaids. The mermaids around Australia are very, very kind, especially to fishermen. So, just go out in the water.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not taking that chance.
Yeah, there's those jellyfish with the incredibly long tentacles that can like murder you from very far away.
Like 45, 50 feet away. They just touch you. Never mind the great whites and the megalodon that are feeding on the great whites there that are willing to rip you apart in a couple of bites, jump up with you in the water and shake you in your head and your hair's going, ah. No, not my thing. Not my thing.
Hey, you're not a big fan of the sea.
No. Just not going there. But I do have to ask, with a lot of these cannibalistic type monsters that are out there, how much of that is actually folklore compared to like actual sightings of these creatures?
I think, it's probably falls in that category of the don't go into the woods, kids, because really there are bears and mountain lions and things like that will eat you. But a way to really convince a child is to describe a goblin that has a knife and likes to kill children, right? Like that will keep you out of that area. So I would say there's always that factor to any kind of storytelling. There's a little bit of that like warning, the keeping people close around the campfire. But I think it's dismissive to say that that's what it all is. I do think that there's just with anything, we're talking about oral history that's been recorded somewhere, probably in the Victorian era, with a certain type of storytelling, a certain type of retelling, and an anglicized view, putting things into English that we're reading today. So I don't know, it could be, it's probably as many as there are today, as many experiences that we share, from aliens to Bigfoot to supernatural to paranormal. It's probably equal to that. And there's maybe like some people that retell abduction or really intense poltergeisty type stories. There's probably a percentage that there's some kind of repressed memory of trauma in there, for sure. But I think by and large, you have people who are telling their truth and telling their experience without it's messing with your hair, without really, without saying, oh, well, I'm just telling you this so you don't go into that house. So I don't know. I think when you get into some of those boggy, watery things and the peat type bogs where it's very easy to get lost, I think that those you can get into a bit more of like, kind of goes back to what you're saying with the respecting nature or respecting the boundaries or respecting the power of nature. The power of nature very well can be those very ghouls and goblins that are hovering out there.
Of course they are. Of course they are. We got about 30 seconds to go. Most of those old wives' tales, correct? Legends.
I don't know. I'm not a person that dismisses things as being old wives' tales or just made up. I think that's a problem that we have in Western culture, is that we dismiss these stories as just being myths or something that was told just to kind of amuse us in the night, and we miss the point. But I do think the truth is buried very, very deep and very far back with a lot of these, which is why it's always interesting to travel and hear from people. I mean, a lot of what I know about Irish folklore, I learned by traveling in Ireland and asking questions and reading a lot of books and things. So, yeah.
Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. You can find any of her books by going to any major bookstore, finding them online, checking out her lovely website at varlaventura.net. Daring to be different. She doesn't like the .coms in her life. She's a .net kind of girl. Varla and Monster Talk will be back with Our Cryptid World for Hour 2 right after this. Hey, Gary, you're Dutch. You're totally Dutch. All right. I will be right back. I'm just going to run my dogs outside, okay?
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Every 2 weeks, I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefoot?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
All right, Old Davy's back. We'll wait for Varla. And because Gary is in here, I want to remind you that you can get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil right there. Go to mightymoosebeard.com. Real simple. I think I'm going to try this one tonight, the original. It's got a new one out called True North. I think it should have been named Sasquatch, but I didn't have a choice on that. He is Dutch after all. All you do is take that, drip it into your hand like so. Throw that in there, massage it in. That's all you do. Just massage it in. MightyMooseBeard.com. It's only like $20, guys. So if you're American, that's like $16. Gary's going to take care of you if you use promo code SOR2019. It's also good for the hair. Real good. It's all natural, no chemicals. And you look fantastic, you smell fantastic, and you're like, by God, This is good stuff. That's what you got to do and say right there. MightyMooseBeard.com. Tell Gary the Dutchman that Dave sent you by using promo code SOR2019. He's going to take good care of you. So check it on out. I know Kim Jellin just did. She just did. She's checking it out. She got it in her hair right now. She does. So there we go. Varla, how you doing?
Good. So what does it smell like?
This one smells like a beautiful fresh forest.
Wow.
Yes.
Nice description.
Yeah. Feels good. Makes your
Looks
beard
good.
shiny. Makes it shiny. MightyMooseBeard.com. We've got like 20 seconds. Thank you to Dolly. Thank you to My Zoe Buttercup with the cue to smile. Raz, Grizz, and Fapster for the amazing super chats. And a big thank you to everybody coming on in. And yeah, we stalled. Don't worry, we're coming right back here. There we go. We are reconnected. Sorry about that. Thank you to everybody for the super chats. Thank you for the thumbs up, thumbs down. And to the new subscribers, thank you so much for hitting that subscribe button. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us. My name is Dave Scott, and we are Spaced Out Radio. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Revolution Radio. If you want to check out our archives, we have them free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? What do you got? Wang'em. Wang'em is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the lovely and talented Varla Ventura. She is the queen of the cryptid realm. We bring her on once every couple of months for Our Cryptid World. I think we may be her favorite show that she does. I think we are. I'm leaning that way. She's nodding. She's got great teeth, too. You can find her website at varlaventura.net and her books at every major bookstore in North America. Varla, welcome back.
Why, thank you. Yeah, definitely my favorite. It's so easy to be on this show with you, and you have such a great fan base, and it's always fun.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. All right.
Thanks for rolling with my cannibalistic, tendencies.
It happens. You're a vampirist. Why wouldn't I? You're a vampirist. I gotta ask you, in regards to a lot of the cryptid legends, you do a lot with sea monsters, you do a lot with the traditional ones as well, but you like the more obscure types of changelings, Pookas, fairy realm that's out there. What's the difference between, say, something like Bigfoot and Dogman, which we'll talk about momentarily, and these other types of creatures that are allegedly out there?
So, I mean, who knows, really? Like, there's no definitive answer to that, right? But, because we're talking about, like, supernatural cryptids, so anything goes. But I think I kind of actually consider them to be in a very similar realm, and that is basically the realm of the unknown, also called the lower world, also called the underworld. It has many different names in different cultures. It's the other side of things that we can't always see, and these creatures live there and dwell in that unknown and dwell in that space, and they just kind of, mess with us, basically, appear helpful, not helpful, sometimes scary, sometimes, benevolent, all of these different kinds of things. And so I don't know. I personally think that Bigfoot is in that category. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that think Bigfoot's like in its own category, but I put it in the same category as other kind of, I just call them all magical creatures, really, because they are, right? But I don't know. I mean, the difference is probably place is about the only difference. Where in the world you're seeing things and who's seeing them. I don't know. I mean, there's so many camps about Bigfoot, and that Bigfoot's actually like its own species, and it's an animal, and not any kind of like supernatural being, of course. But I don't know. I think it's pretty likely that it falls in that same category, and that's why it's elusive.
Makes sense. So, do you have a favorite? Out of all the little cryptid creatures, do you have a favorite?
I love leprechauns, actually. I find them really fascinating. They're far more complex than we give them credit for. We have this very sort of this Victorian Irishman view that was superimposed when there were Irish immigrants in the United States that had a certain manner of dress. And that's kind of where this modern idea of a leprechaun, but the leprechaun is really a much broader kind of, it does more. It's more of a bringer of fortune, but only for someone who is very, very clever. There isn't a pot of gold. There's often a magical purse. But the best part about the leprechaun, and I also like Pookas for this reason, is that they're trickster fairies. They're basically there to get the better of foolish humans. And like Pookas, I love Pookas. They prey on drunks, which is pretty hilarious, I think. One moment you're walking home from the pub singing gaily, and the next moment you're in a ditch and the puka knocked you over with its beastly tail. So
bad puka.
Puka. I like those kind of ones that play tricks on humans, which I probably am gonna have a trick played on me just for that. I don't mind the little things that occasionally take one earring or a key and then return it much, much later in a strange place. I find those types of sort of impish behavior, I find that comforting.
Well, that works. That works. Okay, you have an amazing Dogman story.
So this is super. So there's a book, I referenced it earlier. It's called British Goblins, and it's this massive old volume. I first found it in a library, just in like an old reference section. So it was published in 1880, and it's pretty rare to actually find it like an older edition of it, but you can find a full version of it on Gutenberg, which is a wonderful resource for anybody who's interested in reading public domain works of all kinds from this library where they've scanned all of these old books. And so in this book, now I've read this book multiple times because I'm usually looking at, there's a whole section on things that appear at the crossroads. There's a whole section on funeral rites. There's a whole section on the occult power of goats and other domestic animals. It's this really wonderful thing. It's written by this man I was saying was the Welsh consulate. Somehow, now this is a really, really long book, and it's got a lot of Victorian language and Welsh words. So it's not exactly something that you just like read from cover to cover. So I just dive in and out of it here and there. And I was reading it, and I was actually looking for this bogey, because I was thinking about like boogeyman and bogey, and that's like the most ultimate monster. And I knew I had read this reference to the word in that book, like a very specific reference. And I got completely sucked in and started reading this whole section about this dog creature. And I've heard a few of these sort of like giant black dog type stories before. I've heard of them. I interviewed a woman who lives in Alaska and would see these black dogs on the entrance to mines and other kind of like cave dwellings. This specifically, though, is the Welsh Dog of Darkness. And it's known in Welsh as the gwylgi. And it kind of looks like a mastiff, right? It's a very large beast. It has blazing fire red eyes and terrible breath so foul that it burns down shrubbery and trees and fields in its path. And it has a very fearsome howl, which actually paralyzes victims and completely like terrifies them and will leave them unnerved for days. There are all of these accounts of like days later, people still like shaken to their core, basically being completely just overcome with terror. So there's a number of these stories, and I have read other stories of similar like creatures in Ireland and Scotland. But what stood out to me is this particular story where the story is a man, and I'll just read it to you. As he was coming home from courting a young woman of his acquaintance, named delicately withheld as he did not marry her, late one Sunday night, or it may have been Monday morning, he encountered in the haunted lane, talking about the specific place in Wales, 2 large shining eyes which drew nearer and nearer to him. He was dimly able to discern, in connection with the gleaming eyes, what seemed a form of human shape, with the body and limbs of a large spotted dog. And then there was another one in there that talked about it being kind of like a humanoid shape, but with just like the face of a dog. And again, like I have read more than one account of these actual dogs, these giant, dog of the sea. In fact, I was in Ireland one time many years ago, 20 years ago, and was walking by the sea with this gentleman who told me the story of the dog that comes out of the sea. But this was the first time that I'd ever seen it described with human attributes as well. And it made me realize that there's probably a lot more like this, but it requires quite a bit of digging, because here it was hidden in this dusty volume from 1880. And of course, recorded in 1880, the experience could have happened years before as he was traveling about and interviewing people. So there you have an isolated incident of Dogman in Wales, or maybe not isolated, but a few accounts of a Dogman in Wales in the 1800s. So thought that was kind of cool.
When I think of Wales, the United Kingdom, Great Britain, that entire area there, I always think leprechauns. I always think, fairies and gnomes and very old type creatures. I'm not thinking Dogman. I'm not thinking Sasquatch there.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking I wasn't thinking Dogman until I saw that, and it was a dog that looked like a man. I mean, it's very interesting description. So, I don't know. I mean, this kind of goes back to that discussion of, are we just recording and experiencing things that people have been experiencing for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and we're using different language and different terms and different tools? But it's actually the same phenomena.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but that's part of what makes it really interesting, are these parallels, like the things that look like aliens in an old book from the 1800s.
See, what gets me on that then is it makes me wonder whether there's these doors that open to these different realms where all these other creatures are hiding. Whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's Dogman or fairies or leprechauns, because the way they seem to be able to bask in and out of society, our society here, with just fleeting glimpses, it's almost like they're able to run through these doors or portals. Have you looked into that?
Yeah, well, there are many, many beliefs about specific places, specific crossroads or ley lines, or particular doors, for example, on a particular rock, where that is an entrance or a cave. In Ireland, there are tons of caves that claim to be entrances to the underworld. Tons. And that's not unique only to Ireland. Caves in particular are often considered portals. So you have a lot of places where, whatever you want to call it, energy grids or ley lines or some kind of thing comes together, that there's passages to and fro. I mean, I love that view of it, actually. I love the idea that there's little doorways and portals all over the world, and that these things sort of like seep through, and people who are able to and are, whether they're consciously open to it or not, are able to see these things. They're kind of given that gift of, why? Maybe just to realize we're not the only ones here. We're not the only thing that's happening. That time is not what we think it is. There's a lot of layers to why we might see phenomenon.
Do you think there is something then as to what we call the underworld, where these creatures are allegedly hiding or living?
Yeah, it's like, so the way I think of it is it's coexisting with us. Modern lexicon might call that parallel dimensions or something, but traditionally, this is a worldview that many, many indigenous cultures held and still hold, that we are coexisting with this invisible realm, and that we think everything goes from point A to point B. And every once in a while, these things kind of drift through to remind us that we have no idea what point A or point B actually is.
Question coming from the chat room for you. And this one from Joseph. In your opinion, was Anubis a representative of Dogman? Like he could have been the original Dogman or a super Dogman species? They seem very familiar.
I like that. I mean, he was the dog-headed Egyptian god, and was equated also with death and passages into the other world. But yeah, I mean, I could see that. I have looked at other kind of like god dog type creatures and wondered that same thing. I think that's a little different because that was sort of worshipped, whereas the dogmen in Wales, the dog in Wales, the dog of the sea, kind of that's a little bit more feared, but that could just be owing to our inability to actually see it for what it is.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Because, I mean, this whole Dogman creature, for people who don't know, it goes back thousands of years. Thousands.
Right.
So the next question is, or would it be, are we maybe manifesting these creatures ourselves? Or when we manifest them, does that almost unlock a secret key to these doors to the inner world?
Well, it depends on if you ask an investigator or a witch. Because witches know that you work with these kinds of elements and energies in order to sort of transform your own abilities and mind and the world around you. And investigators are trying to capture it, perhaps to prove something to the outside world or to themselves that they've caught something. So I don't really know, I don't really know how to answer that, other than, I mean, it just kind of depends on your perspective, really.
Okay, so let's go back to this inner world for a second. All right, because this is kind of intriguing. What lives there, in your opinion?
So, like the other world, the like invisible realm?
Yes.
All the things, Dave. All the things live there. That's the other world. That's the world where, you've got your goblins, you've got your cryptids. Again, I mean, I put a lot of those things in the same category. I think there's a whole like hierarchy of, who's under whose domain. I think there's regional languages and accents, and I think the whole kind of alternate universe to where we are. And I think we don't really have a word for it. We don't have good vocabulary for it. So we call it a lot of things that don't quite hit the mark. We call it the other world. We call it the underworld. We call it the world below. We call it the invisible realm. We call it a parallel dimension. We call it an inner world. We call it an alternate reality. We call it all these different things, but none of those quite really capture what it is, because I think it's so malleable and so it's difficult. Probably like the closest thing I've ever read to describing and making any sense is, if you ever read Black Elk Speaks, he talks about the world in a way that it is there's a hoop, and there's sort of a circular, non-linear view of time and the way that the universe is arranged. That's probably the closest thing I've ever read to actually, putting it into a digestible form. But the other thing is there's all kinds of accounts, just as there are with alien abductions, there are all kinds of accounts of people disappearing into the fairy realm and being lost for days and thinking that they've been at this like wonderful party and that they're going to stay there. And then as they're there, just as with a party in real life, everyone looks great at, midnight. And by 4 a.m, we're all looking pretty rough. And when the fairy realm, it messes. The other thing that I think is really interesting about it, about the fairy tales and a lot of the older myths and legends, is it gets back to that concept of time and the view of time as being just this one thing, because that's another similarity to like an alien abduction story where you've lost your sense of time and place. And frequently in these stories of old, you'll find someone who is missing for hours or sometimes days, and occasionally even weeks before they're recovered, and they have been living this kind of like alternate world that's very dreamlike, and it's that dream state. So
do a lot of these creatures clash, or are they friendly to each other? Have we had reports of, say, Bigfoot and fairies, or Dogman and leprechauns, or gnomes?
I mean, I think they probably get along fairly well because they kind of stick to their own territory. They've each got their elemental domain. It could be woodland, it could be water. There's usually not more than one water spirit per lake, but if there's more than one, they're working in tandem. So you have, I've never seen a story of someone actually being able to witness that. We don't know. I mean, maybe there's like battles that go on between Bigfoot and the fairies.
Well, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We have Varla Ventura for one more hour here on Spaced Out Radio. She is the queen of the cryptid realm, in my opinion. Yes, her website is varlaventura.net if you want to check it on out, which I highly suggest you do. You can find all of her books at any major bookstore, as well as online at Amazon. We'll be back with more Monster Talk on Spaced Out Radio next. I apologize. I got a little distracted there because SpaceX was launching Falcon 9, and I really did.
Oh, right now?
Oh, they just did. It's up in space now. Yeah. It amazes me. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm a child again watching the space shuttles take off.
I know. I watched the whole docking when, who was it, like Bob and, what was the other guy's name?
Bob and Doug.
Bob and Doug, yeah. I watched the whole like docking and sat patiently waiting for them to actually come out of their thing into the International Space Station. It was like, and the video quality was like so good, really, in the grand scheme of things, because they're at the International Space Station. It's pretty fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Hey, look who it is. Mr. Cowley. Welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley loves his spaced out radio. Uh-huh. Good morning to you as you listen to Dave and Varla. That's all I got.
That's enough.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Like it. It's great.
Mm-hmm. I'm a weirdo, man. I'm a weirdo.
I always like to look on Twitter on the breaks because Marty always posts really hilarious GIFs on there.
I know. Actually, the good crowd is in there.
Dogman Portals.
Yeah. Eric with a K is in there. You know, we are Eric with a K's fourth favorite show. We're number 4.
Oh, I wonder what the other 3 are.
I know what they are, and but we're number 4. That's all. We used to be number 2.
Uh-oh, what'd we do?
Well, he fell in love with 2 other shows. So, But the main thing is we're out of medal contention, but we're right on the cusp.
Right, we could get it back.
I don't think so. Think so. Eric with a K is a stubborn old soul. Nice guy. Stubborn, no. Stubborn. But
there are a lot of good shows out there on a lot of good topics.
True.
But there's none like Spaced Out Radio.
Well, that's what I try and tell him, but he just says, Dave, you're number 4. I did move up from number 5. I was for like 2 weeks I was at number 5, but now I'm back up to number 4. Hold on.
Well, yeah, you're improving.
Hold on a second here. Let's call my daughter.
Oh yeah. Make sure she got her Tim Hortons order.
Hello, did you get my Tim Hortons order? Because I got you on the radio right now, and everybody's listening. So be a good girl.
Yes, I did.
Yes? What do you want to say to my audience right now as they listen to you?
I'm driving, so I should get off my phone.
You have Bluetooth.
I don't have Bluetooth in the Jeep.
Why haven't you hooked up your Bluetooth yet?
Because it won't connect.
Then why are you driving talking to me, you dangerous, dangerous girl?
I have you on speakerphone for 1, and for 2, and then drivers should not be talking on their phone, but if their stepdad is calling them, and then they're going to get a million texts from him, then I'm going to answer my phone before I get a million texts from him. This
is true. That's good fathering on my part. Good fathering. Okay, love you. See you soon.
Okay, love you. I'll see you in like 5 minutes.
Bye. All right.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's a good kid.
Yeah, you
good
just got
kid.
schooled.
She totally just beat my ass down right there.
As yes, that's what daughters are for.
Yes. Yes. Excuse me. Trying just looking through the chat room here. We got like 1 minute, Varla Ventura.
Okay.
Yeah, she totally.
I've been muting when I'm glugging water because
she totally schooled me there.
Gross.
Totally schooled me.
Yep.
She's like, "Shut the hell up, Dad. Shut the hell up. What are you doing calling me? I'm driving." I'm gonna have to set up her Bluetooth.
Basically, like the only reason I answered your call so you wouldn't text me.
Pretty much. Pretty much. That's the way it goes. Yes.
Cute.
Yes. Yes. All right, we got like 20 seconds. Thank you to Dolly, Zoe Buttercup, Razgriz, and Fabster for the amazing super chats tonight. Thank you to everybody who's tuned on in. Give us a thumbs up. Thank you to everyone who's hit that subscribe button. Here we go as we continue on with Varla. We continue on with Varla Ventura tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight talking monsters all night long, Our Cryptid World, with one of the best authors in North America, Varla Ventura. Find all of her books at any major bookstore and on her website, varlaventura.net. Varla, welcome back.
Why, thank you.
Why did you allow your son to play goaltender in hockey?
I had no control over that.
Because, goaltenders in hockey are like cryptids. It's just weird.
Well, that is your answer right there.
There you go. I'll even wear my Canucks mask for you.
Oh, thanks. Nice.
There you go. Anyways, that's enough of that because I'm at home in my studio here. And all right, monster talk. Even though
showing off your mask.
No, I just love hockey. You know that.
I know that.
Varla and I talk hockey quite a bit.
I've come to actually understand hockey, sort of, and enjoy it quite a bit.
Did you say understand the hockey?
No.
You totally did. You totally did.
No, I did not.
Totally did.
I understand the hockey a bit more now. It's very fast-paced, even for the young. I mean, like, I was doing well with the mites, is what we call them here, the little ones. I could keep up. And now, you know, they're skating so fast, I can't follow it. I'm just learning all the penalties now, because they're old enough to get penalties.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
It's fascinating.
If I was on the ice with your son, I'd run him. I would.
I don't know what that means, Dave.
If he came out of the crease to play the puck, I know I'm like 40 years older than him, but I'd still run him.
He might block you.
That's fine. That's fine.
Very well.
I'll take the chance. I'll take the chance.
Hey, their team is the undefeated in the state of Minnesota.
Nice.
So. Yeah, they're doing great.
Very cool. I'm old school hockey, though. I can't stand today's NHL. I can't. I hate it. I can't even watch it. The talent is so beautiful, but I cannot watch it. It is horrible, horrible what they have done to the game. And Tom Rennie, the jerk from Hockey Canada, he needs to be fired. I'm going to get fired up here. But let's go back to monsters. You want to see the monster? Dave the Hockey Monster coming out. Oh, yeah.
Well, I would say any hockey parent could be perceived as a monster. Mm-hmm.
Tell me about it. All right. I got a question about something really cool. And I'm curious if you've heard of this one. It was seen in Tennessee, the skinned Tom.
Ooh.
Have you heard of this one?
No. I have never heard of a skinned Tom. That sounds terrifying.
So apparently, I'm getting this off of Pinterest. Apparently, don't woo the wrong lady like young Tom did. He ended up getting skinned alive by a beautiful woman's angry husband. His bloody ghost hangs around one of these lanes to punish cheaters.
Oh, Wow.
I want to investigate
Yeah, I was going to say, that would be a fun one. That would be a fun one to investigate. In Tennessee, huh?
Yes.
I know a couple of people that live in, does it say where in this like particular?
Walland, Tennessee.
Walland. Okay, I'm going to write that down and ask, because I've got a friend that lives in Tennessee now.
Actually,
Just moved there.
If you go to Pinterest and legends and myths, it's actually very cool what's on there.
You know what? I've never used Pinterest for that. I usually just use it for like gothic home decor or whatever, like, dream bedrooms. It's never occurred to me to look up like myths and things like that on there.
It's kind of cool.
Smart.
It's kind of cool. All right, here's one for you.
I wonder if I'm on there.
I'll check out in a second while you're answering this. All right. How come we don't hear any very rare stories about the goat man anymore?
Oh, well, there's like an incredible lexicon of goat-related just lore and legends and worship and beliefs. I think I had mentioned earlier this whole section in this book by William Wirt Sykes. It's actually called British Goblins. So in this instance, he uses the term goblin to sort of like umbrella all of these like strange and unusual supernatural creatures. There's a whole section on the occult power of goats, and that many cultures, in particular cultures that are herding and that use goats and other kind of like herding animals, are completely, enamored and leave offerings and are respectful of a goat-footed god or a horned god that is frequently depicted like something like a Pan kind of thing. Now, some of the goat man stuff is... daughter's bringing the snack here. I can see what's going on. It's the cap. It's the ice cap.
Yes.
Yes. You got it. So in some instances, with a lot of these accounts of some of these like strange beasts that are dancing around the fires on significant holidays like Walpurgisnacht and things like that, you actually have traditions around the world of people dressing in these very elaborate costumes, skins, skulls, putting horse skulls on their heads, putting these strange straw outfits on, and doing it as part of a ritualistic, pagan dance to ensure good crops, to bring health and wealth to the society. And then you had, learned men coming along, recording these things and reporting them as these sort of like heathen acts, because they were seen to be in conflict with the one thing you were supposed to worship, which was, the cross. So a lot of those legends, I do think, are born from real rituals that were done in honor of nature spirits and gods and goats.
It's always a goat. Always a goat. All right, questions Question coming from Jim. Varla, have you ever seen a fairy?
Yes, I have. I saw like a thing that I now think was a leprechaun. That's probably why I like leprechauns so much. But at the time, it didn't look like what I thought a leprechaun was, right? So it didn't have the little bowler hat and the big belt buckle and the outfit. It was actually dressed in sort of like something much more sort of muddy and ragged. And it was just looked like a very small man, like, 2 to 3 feet tall at the most, if that. And I was sitting down by a river. I don't know that it was a leprechaun. I mean, it was something very like that. It was a small humanoid-y creature. And I was sitting by a creek that flows into a river. And I was sitting by myself. And I was just, I was a little kid. So I was just, singing to the babbling brook or something. And I looked up and I saw it and it looked at me. And I remember I turned to yell for my mom to come and see it. wasn't scared. I thought it was really cool, and I wanted my mom and sister to see it. And when I turned back, the leaf, it was kind of, there's this particular plant that grows in California, and we just call it like an umbrella plant, but it has a really wide leaf, and it grows in the creek beds. And that was moving, and it had been previously standing right underneath it. And so I turned, and that was moving. So I've seen that. I've seen a few other things out of the corner of my eyes. People have sent me a lot of photos. Some of them are very convincing. Some of them are very surprising. Some of them look totally photoshopped. So, I've definitely, and one time I was in the woods and I was camping. I was a teenager, and this was something that we did in rural California. We would camp with our friends. It was just like, we'd camp out on the weekends. And so we were camping, and I just like went for a walk or some kind of like weird teenage girl thing, and was by myself, and I got completely turned around, and we were camping in this area that I wasn't really familiar with. And I got really disoriented, and I sat down, and all of a sudden I felt two kind of like hands reach behind me and kind of point me in this direction. And when I felt that, I looked, and that's when I realized, like, I could kind of vaguely see the firelight from there. And when I turned around, it was just these two branches of the tree that had kind of like pushed out, and then they were just like sort of pointing me in that way. So I felt like that was some kind of, maybe I was partying a little too hard as a teenager, but I did feel like a real strong presence with that. So yeah, I've seen a few things. I mean, it's hard to say what they were, but they definitely weren't of this, mortal world.
Armando is asking if you've
Love
done...
that name.
Yeah, isn't that great? Rolls off the tongue right. Armando.
Beautiful name. Armando.
Beautiful name. Beautiful name. I bet she has nice eyebrows. I'm just saying. Probably. Anyways, Armando with the nice eyebrows is asking if you have looked into the legends of Thunderbirds and what you think of those.
A little bit. I don't know a ton about them. I have read some different stories about them as being these supernatural, incredibly huge creatures that, are thought to have a lot of power and can kind of transport you from one world to the next, or represent a hole into the other world, or a portal into the other world. I have been in South America on a couple of trips where there were some rituals that involved like the Andean condor. And I wondered if that had its roots in this same idea of like a thunderbird, or a very, very, very large bird, because the Andean condors are huge. And the rituals were kind of interesting. They were involved a cow and a condor, and kind of a holiday. So.
All right. I don't know about them. I don't believe the Thunderbird is out there.
Okay.
Okay, for a couple reasons. Number one, actually
Do you
three.
think it's just a bird?
3 reasons. I'll give you 3 reasons. And trust me, I want to believe in this because I love believing in all this stuff. I do. But there's 3 reasons that I can't figure out. Number one, all right, it's big enough at 40 feet, it would be picked up on radar.
Pretty big. Yeah.
It'd be picked up on radar. All right. Number 2, we'd see it eat. Because a bird that big is going to eat some pretty big things. It's not like an eagle just snapping a salmon or a trout out of a lake. But number 3, that bird dropping would paint things.
Hey, that's actually a really, I think about that with Bigfoot too. Like, what about Bigfoot poop? Like, why don't we see that? Why don't we see those droppings along the trail?
Yeah, but most people out there are not familiar with the type of deuce that a bear drops or a moose drops, let alone what a Sasquatch would drop.
But I think that there are people out there who are familiar with those things, that spend a lot of time in the woods, that would be tracking, that would potentially know. If you know the difference between a bear print and a Sasquatch print, then you need to know the difference between its scat, right?
Yes.
That's a way to bring poop into it, because that's actually a really good point.
That's big poo right there by a Thunderbird. There would be a lot of white trees out there, and we're not finding a lot of white trees. All I'm saying. Miss Pickles is asking, Varla, what do you have to say about ascended masters? She thinks, in her opinion, they are fallen angels.
I mean, do you mean like people who claim to be ascended masters on Earth? And are here to like teach us things? That's my
I would say I would say spiritual masters.
Yeah, spiritual masters. So. I've never met one. So that's all I'll say about that.
All right. Let's see. I'm just going through the chat room here. All right, I got another one here for you. This is from my Pinterest list that I have.
Did you look me up on there yet?
Yes, your books are on there.
Oh, yay.
Yay. Yeah, they're
with
on
like
there.
Angry faces drawn across.
Big X's out of them.
She boils children.
Exactly. Cannibal. All right, let's get to a monster here that we might be able to ask you about. Let's go. Let's see here. Have you ever looked into the Kushtaka from southern Alaska?
No, I have not.
Okay, this is apparently a shape-shifting creature that are a cross between an otter and a man.
What?
The Kushtaka makes noises that mimic children and wives to lure fishermen, though they are sometimes helpful tricksters.
Okay, so that is very similar to a selkie, which you hear a lot about, especially in Ireland and Scotland, and that is a shapeshifter that is a seal, and you can, like, the seal comes on land and transforms into a beautiful woman, and if a man captures her coat, he can marry her. He has to hide the coat away. He can marry her, they can have children, and then if she ever finds her coat, she has to return to the sea. It's this really like bittersweet legend. And there's a lot of wonderful songs and poems about the Selkies. So that is really cool, and I'm going to look into that more because that's fascinating. Makes sense that you would have a creature that is kind of similar, but with an animal that is more prominent there.
Sovereign wants to know if you've ever chased down jackalopes. I love jackalopes.
I have not chased down a jackalope, but I do belong to a society, a secret society in San Francisco, and our logo is a Wolpertanger, which is basically a jackalope plus chicken.
A jackalope with chicken legs.
It's a chicken, bunny, antelope hybrid. It's really cool. Anyway, it's a, made up creature that is all of those things, but it is our logo. It's called Odd Salon. It's really cool.
Yes, I fell in love with the jackalope through geocaching, because when you geocache, you sometimes get these, you can find what they call geocoins. And we were in Whistler geocaching, and all of a sudden we open up this geocache, and there is this jackalope coin from South Dakota. And I was like, that is the greatest thing ever. And I just fell in love with the jackalopes from there. Totally want a stuffed jackalope.
Okay, well, one of the things that there's a woman that's part of this odd society, and she's one of the odd fellows, and she makes little stuffed Wolpertangers. Its name is Harvey. He's like our logo.
Nice.
I'm going to see if I can find a picture of him here so I can hold it up to you, even though no one else will be able to see it. I'll show it to you later. But yeah, I love jackalopes. I love Wolpertangers. All those kind of hybrid beasts. There was one thing we were talking about earlier. I know we're like running out of time, but it did pop into my mind. And just when we were talking about like the idea of, nature and having respect for nature. And I really think about that a lot when I'm reading about or researching mermaids. And when I was writing that book about mermaids, this came up a lot because I have spent enough time in the ocean to realize how quickly you can get disoriented and how fast and strange the currents are, and how enchanting and lulling the waves are. And, if I've done like some it sounds funny to say snorkeling off the Northern California coast, but I have. And it's beautiful. It's all the beautiful kelp and all the colors. You think it's all just like green and gray, and there's just this gorgeous rainbow of colors. And then you look up and you realize that you are, really far from your diving partner without even meaning to be. And and I think that there's an element of the mermaid in that shifting, in that getting disoriented, in that like that panic of not being able to breathe, the lack of oxygen, the beautiful hair that is the kelp that is luring you in, something that wraps around and pulls you in. And I think it all kind of comes down to that sort of relationship with nature and the currents, and as with the river.
We've got about 1 minute and 40 seconds here with you before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Varla Ventura is our guest. Have you ever heard of the Tuatha Danann?
Yes.
Jim wants to know. What's up with that?
Yes, that's a kind of a Welsh fairy. And they're perceived as both benevolent and a little bit dangerous, and can be, I believe, usually like a female fairy. I've got some info on it. I can pull up at the break.
Well,
I have no idea if that's how you say it. I was actually like putting Welsh words into a translator and trying to get it to say it properly, because Welsh and Irish and Scottish, the Gaelic languages, do not sound the way they look. So I'm not sure how to say it. Put it in the translator. Yeah.
Now, Aiden, we got about 30 seconds. We'll sneak Aiden's question in. Have you ever seen a fairy, including the fae known by one name as Meanlocks?
I have never personally seen one. I'm not familiar with that particular fairy.
Me either. But nonetheless, we got you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. I don't know where we're going to go. I really don't.
Who knows?
The beautiful part about what people don't understand is you and I do not plan any show. We just run with it.
We have no idea what's going to happen.
We have no idea.
Sometimes you pick a theme, and then we just go with that. But we usually know that like right before, like literally right before. Like, okay, we're going live. We're going to talk about monsters.
Absolutely. What are we talking about tonight, Varla? I don't know, Dave. How about monsters? Okay, let's do it. Varla Ventura is here for another 30 minutes, and we're going to get to the SOR News Wire and the Thought of the Dave. A jam-packed Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio coming up next. I'm just going to run my dogs outside. I'll be right back. Okay, Varla?
Okay.
All right.
I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey Space Travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units.
All right, I'm back. Hi, Jen. No, I do take my dogs out. I do. That is the truth. I do take my dogs out. My dogs are old, and if I don't take them out, they get, sometimes they get messes in the house. And I don't like that. Hi, Ian. How you doing, man? Varla?
My dog was looking over here, and I thought somehow she could hear you even though I have headphones on. She came down to hang out with me.
Perfect.
During the show. Yeah.
Hey, Super Quest, how you doing?
Oh, let me show you this.
Jurassic Joey, good to see you. I have a German Shepherd and a German Shepherd Cross. What is that?
That's the Whirlpool Tanger
Cool.
Odd Salon logo. Yeah.
Very cool. By the way, something interesting. My audience already knows this, but I have a ghost dog that looks like my German Shepherd walking around my yard.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've seen
That's super cool.
Seen it 3 times, and it's tried to get into the house once.
Really?
Yeah.
I had a ghost cat in an apartment that I lived in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Hey, big thank yous so much to Vinster, to Dolly, Zoe Buttercup, Raz Grizz, and Fapster for the amazing super chats tonight. Thank you for the love and the support. Big thank you to everyone who's given us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, and everyone who's new, who's hit that subscribe button. Remember, you can shop at facebook.com/the SOR Vault for your swag that we have. We're going to get hour 3 going here in 5 seconds.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune us on in. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us here, Clam? Wang'em. Wang'em is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Varla Ventura. She comes in every couple of months to talk monsters all around us with Our Cryptid World. Her website, varlaventura.net. If you want to check it on out, you can buy all of her books at any major bookstore, so check them on out. Varla, welcome back.
Why, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very, very welcome. As we continue to talk monsters. And right during the break, I was telling you about the ghost dogs that I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. We have actually a lot of ghost animals around here. We do. You know, I have probably one of the 2 trippiest experiences I've had is when our cat passed away a couple years ago. I actually felt the cat jump on my leg in the middle of the night. And then when our dog passed away, our little one, I actually had her, I saw her on my bed the night she died. Saw her lying on the bed where she normally saw, and I'm like, her name was Zero. I said, Zero, you got to move, honey. You got to move. I'm coming in. Like totally blanking out that she died earlier in the day. And I watched her get up and move, and yeah.
Aww.
I crawled into bed, and then she kind of disappeared.
Wow. There was an apartment I lived in where I had, well, I think it was a ghost cat. I would occasionally see this, cat, but it was always like down the hall and away, and I had cats for years. You know, growing up, we always had a black cat or 3 around the house, and I had been living for a while in this place in San Francisco, and just one of my cats had died, and I didn't have a cat. And I kept seeing a cat. And actually, in fact, one time my mom came and visited and stayed the night. And she said, I think there's a cat here. I can't figure it out. It's like, we think there's a cat ghost. So, yeah, that's That's really cool, actually. I like animal ghosts.
Getting back to monsters, Varla Ventura.
Oh, just getting back to that question that somebody had asked about the Twilitag or the Twilitagimin, or however the heck you say it, because it's a Welsh word. Someone had asked in the I think it reads in English as Tawith Tag. That's kind of just an umbrella term for fairies in Wales. And what used to be more commonly known as Gwyllion or Gillian. So there's a particular kind that live in mines and are equated as like Tommyknockers and things like that. But just wanted to get back to that because I had a brain
All right.
fart. I had to look it up.
Kevin is asking if you've looked into the study of Wendigos.
I have. I've actually had I've had a Wendigo. I had a Wendigo summer, ironically, last summer, in which I was actually writing a story, and the Wendigo kept trying to creep through, and it really made me think about what that legend really is, or means, or represents. And the Wendigo, if people aren't familiar with the Wendigo is thought to be this sort of like ferocious beast that kind of, appears especially in the winter and encourages cannibalism, and sort of like it's never satiated. That's the sort of Hollywood version of the Wendigo, but the Wendigo actually represents a lot about greed and overuse of things in society, or even within a society, and a balance of nature. And so there's a lot of misconceptions about what the Wendigo is or is meant to be. But one of the things that I think of with the Wendigo is the Donner Party. And having grown up in that part of California, I have a friend who's an archaeologist there, and he did he was doing a bunch of work up in the Sierras, up in the Donner Pass area. And if you don't know the story of the Donner Party, it's basically people were, traveling from the Midwest out west, trying to get over the Sierras. And it's about a 6,000-foot elevation, and it gets a lot of snow. In fact, the snow never really melts there. So it's a pretty treacherous pass. It's now called Donner Pass. And it's very rocky and craggy. There's not a ton of woods. And this is after already crossing over the Rockies and all of that. So they were led to, ultimately, they started to eat one of the members of their party that had died, was kind of, what happened with them. That's true cannibalism. But the story actually that my friend told me, who was working on a survey in that area, is that the indigenous people in that area actually knew the Donner Party was there, and they were tracking them, and they were like watching them. And this is post contact, so they had every reason to be wary of who this was coming through their camp. And they were kind of watching them for 2 or 3 days with the ability to kind of like they had like a good vantage point, and they were watching over them. And then they resorted to cannibalism. And at that point, the indigenous people were like, no, we cannot help them. We need to protect ourselves and get away from them. So the irony of that situation and the sort of Wendigo there is that their own greed is really ultimately what killed them. So yeah, there's a lot of Hollywood versions of the Wendigo, but I think it has a deeper meaning there.
It has antlers, right?
It's sometimes depicted as antlers, usually very furry, black fur, or dark fur. Looks something kind of like, it's most common in like where I am in this northern part of Minnesota. You see it in the Dakotas, the Lakota, and also like further up into Canada, or what's now Canada.
We've been in Canada for a while, just so you know.
Yeah, you've been in Canada for a while.
Yeah.
But we were not, I mean, I'm talking about the Dakota people, not the states called the Dakotas.
I know, I'm just teasing.
I don't know. Are you even Canada anymore?
Always.
Okay.
Always. We don't know about the Albertans.
I love Canada.
We don't know about the Albertans. But
we can't tell. We can't see over the border. We don't know what's going on up there. We're not allowed through.
Saskatchewan, you can. It's so flat that all you got to do is wave, and the people in Saskatchewan will wave back. All right.
Yay.
Chuckles, who wears his hair in a beehive bouffant-type hairdo, he is asking if you've ever seen or looked into the Pukwudgie.
In like the New England area, goblins in the New England area. Goblin-like creatures. I have not ever seen one. There's a guy, actually I learned about the Pukwudgie from a man named Ron Kolick, who is this really awesome paranormal investigator, runs the New England Ghost Project. And I met him many, many years ago, and I was actually on his show with like one of my first books, and we were talking about, and I had never heard of them. And he says it with this wonderful, like, New England accent, too. So it's really funny. But they're actually, they go back to pre-colonial times, pre-contact. They're these little sort of small humanoid creatures that people lived in relative harmony with, but that they definitely, like, knew were there and respected their area. So Ron had a couple of stories of more modern sightings, but I haven't spent a ton of time in that part of the country. So,
all right. Well, let's get to another one here because Raul is asking about Deer Woman. If you've heard of that one, Deer Woman.
I have heard of a like shape-shifting kind of deer creature, but I'm not sure. I don't know what that. I could infer what Deer Woman is, but I've not heard any stories of Deer Woman. I used to be called Deer Woman when I was a teenager, but that's a story for a different crowd.
and just for the story. And just for the audience to know, one of our Saskatchewan listeners, Prairie Fire, was waving. So if anybody actually waved at Saskatchewan, Prairie Fire waved back.
Thank you. I saw you on the southern prairie. I feel like Minnesota is honorary Canada. I feel like we kind of get some of the Canada cred. Like of any state in the U.S. would be Canada light. It's us. You know, we got some tough people here.
It gets cold. It gets colder in Minnesota than where I am. I can tell you that.
It does. I know. When you told me it was cold, I was like, oh, it's gonna get.
It's
real
not even
cold
cold right now. It's not even cold.
I'm from California. I don't even know why I'm here.
Not only do you move to Minnesota, but you allow your son to be a goaltender.
Yes. I just like to shake things up. You know, why do what is expected and move to Vegas, Dave.
It's my goal. That's my goal. If any radio stations in the United States would like to pick us up, I will move to Vegas. I have no problem moving this show to Vegas from the cold of Canada.
Hey, they got the Knights. They got an NHL team now. So.
I know.
Now
really I can move there.
Logo. So yeah, now you can move there. There's
now
hockey
I can
there.
move there.
Exactly.
Because there's hockey, even though it's crappy hockey.
I have to think about that. Whenever I think where else I'd like to live, I have to think, well, it has to be somewhere with a really good youth hockey program because there's no sign of it letting up.
No kidding.
Cap. That looks good.
The Tim Hortons ice cap is fantastic.
Yeah, yummy.
Absolutely. All right, let's continue on. I want to see if you know any more of these that we found on Pinterest here.
This is like Stump the Chump right here, only like it's
exactly
all magical things.
All right. How about let's go to Bladen.
And I want the record to state I do not have a phone in my hand. I am not Googling anything. I am allowed to reference my own books, but that's it.
All right. Let's go to this one here. Bladenboro, North Carolina. The vampire beast of Bladenboro.
Hmm.
Have you heard of this one?
No, I have not.
Okay. Gruesome deaths in the 1950s of
Ooh.
mutilated livestock and dogs drained of blood led to reports of something vaguely feline and huge living near Bladenboro.
Nice.
That's almost Chupacabra-like / aliens.
Well, and then I have a bunch of like weird old stories from medieval times of werewolf and vampire sightings, and they're always there's usually some kind of livestock that has been killed and drained, and or some kind of pox or disease or some kind of fungus or some other thing that has grown on the crops and spoiled them. And wherever you have spoiled crops, famine, or rampant disease, you have accusations of witchcraft or sometimes werewolf or vampirism. So those things all go hand in hand. And it's kind of funny to think of that in the 1950s in the U.S., but, you know, it happens today around the world. So
this is actually kind of fun, testing you on these. All right. Let's get to another one here. Oh, this is a good one. The Spiteful Mermaid of Pyramid Lake, Nevada. So I'll read the description to you.
Okay.
It says,
okay.
while Area 51...
Pyramid Lake. I know Pyramid Lake.
Okay, so it says, while Area 51 gets all the fame and glory for its supposed alien autopsies, fewer people know about the curse of Pyramid Lake, which happened after a Paiute man fell in love with a mermaid. His tribe rejected her and told him to throw her back in. She cursed the lake, brought the settlers, and ignited a war. Talk about spite. In modern times, the lake has drowned locals, spitting them out as far as Lake Tahoe.
Whoa. Well, that's an age-old tale of drowning someone in the lake and then the lake becomes cursed. In fact, there's quite a few mermaid origin stories that involve, in fact, the very first mermaid story is based on a Syrian myth about a woman who is like trapped in this lake because she fell in love with like the wrong guy and he like tossed her in there, and then she's like eternally doomed to be, you know, half fish.
I didn't know that there were freshwater mermaids.
Yeah, so there are, I mean, basically anywhere it makes sense, right? Because water is life. Anywhere you find water, you're going to find some kind of water spirit attached to that in legend, especially if it's an old source of water or an old lake.
Right.
And you see that like all over the UK, there are fairy wells everywhere. And all along the coast, you get a lot more of the mermaid, any kind of like aquatic based society. So island nations have their own versions of supernatural creatures that are in the water, like were-dolphins and things like that. So instead of shape-shifting to be a wolf, it shape-shifts into an otter or a dolphin or another kind of like more commonly seen creature in that area. But yeah, there's all kinds of like domesticated or like, you know, domestic, not domesticated, but domestic mermaids. They're not quite they don't always fit the same description, but they frequently do have that like half, whatever, like half, sometimes it's a half, like eel or water type snake, half person. Not always like the most gorgeous, like kelpie woman, but, and then you have all those like creepy things we talked about in the beginning, like the peg powlers and stuff that are these sort of aquatic creatures that will reach out and drown you. Water is life, and water is also very threatening because you can't breathe in it. So can't live with it.
Very true.
Can't live without it. Can't live in it.
Jim is asking about the alleged demon cat of the White House.
Oh, So, okay, so I have heard that there are a number of White House ghosts. And of course, writers who are far more adept than I have written entire books about the ghosts of the White House and the legends of the White House. And I have heard that there is a cat. I didn't know that it was known as the demon cat, as well as a couple of other animals. And then, like, some people say that the ghost of Abe Lincoln kind of lingers around there sometimes, and a few other, like, random spirits. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Apparently, a few years ago, one of George Bush's daughters was going to come out with a book or just start talking publicly about the ghosts of the White House. And she was asked not to do so.
I wonder if she could do it now, you know? That's like the Bushes their reign is over.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. It's just one of those curiosity things. I think if any place...
That is, I wonder too, I mean, I suppose she could do it anonymously, but that's one of those things like, I have a couple friends who are morticians, and they have off record told me many, many, many stories of strange goings-ons in the, like supernatural strange goings-on in the mortuaries, but on record, they can't really talk about it because it's, it's kind of viewed as like a taboo thing to do, to be going around talking about the ghosts of people's deceased loved ones when you're supposed to be like this professional.
I couldn't handle it. A friend of mine is a mortician. I don't know how she does it, but that is something that I just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. But it'd be a cool place to investigate, that's for sure.
Would be a cool place to investigate. Definitely would be. I go for walks a lot when it's not raining ice at night, especially. And there's one funeral parlor that I walk by, and every time I walk by it, it's just a funeral parlor. And then one night I walked by it and there was a light on inside, and the light was sort of just like shining on this coffin that was very close to the door, close to the window, just beyond the lace curtain. And I walked by it. I walked by it twice because I was like, am I supposed to look in? It was like I almost didn't want to look in there because I didn't know what was in there. It was like peak COVID times. It could be a crowded situation. I wasn't sure. So I've got a and we can keep playing this game, but and I know we got to wrap it up, but I do have I've been having an ongoing paranormal experience, which I may have mentioned to you the last time we talked, but it's at the cemetery right by my house. And I've lived here for several years, and I've walked through this cemetery many, many times. Like I'd say several times a week I walk through this cemetery. And it's a small little historic cemetery. I've walked through it multiple times, never had anything. Almost bought a house right across from it, but it had some gross issues that weren't cemetery related. And then about 3 months ago or so, I was walking through it and I was hit with this jolt of complete like warmth and like body tingling joy, to the point where I was like, I stopped in my tracks. And I kind of like, my stomach started feeling all tingly and happy. And I was just like, what just happened? Kept walking. It was kind of there, and then it sort of faded away. Walked back through the cemetery again, same spot, same thing happened.
Weird.
And then, so the third time it happened, I said, all right, I see you. I know you're here. Thank you for, making your joyous, ghostly presence known to me. And then I walked through again. I got the joyous presence. And when I got to the other end of the cemetery, I got the heart quickening.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Varla, thank you so much.
Oh, my.
Talk to you in 2 months, my dear. VarlaVentura.net. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire. We have the thought of the day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. Varla Ventura.
Yay, thank you. I'm always amazed how quickly 2.5 hours.
Too fast.
2.5 hours.
Way too fast.
And then I like to stay on it, and then I just tune in myself and I listen to your news recap because I feel lonely after we say goodbye sometimes.
I know. I hate it.
I hate it too.
It's where Bon Jovi's Never Say Goodbye comes in.
Do you feel like that about all your guests or just me?
Honestly,
do you feel like that frequently? Like
there are certain guests out there where, and it happens very, very rarely, but there are certain guests out there that just, you can't wait to get them off.
Mm-hmm.
And it only happens like once every few months.
Yeah.
But it's like this show.
I could guess at a couple of those.
But it
shall remain nameless.
It doesn't happen a lot. But every now and again, you just get someone who you just didn't connect with, you know?
Yeah. I would say on the reverse end of things, I've been on shows that I am just like, okay, I'm just going to get through this, you know, like 20 minutes in, you're just like, uh-oh. I've been on quite a few shows like that, but I've also been on shows like yours, and there's a couple of others where there's this one woman, I'm on her show once a year. We just do once a year at Halloween time. And I miss her so much, like esoterically miss her for like a week following because we have such an in-depth conversation. It's like like when you see an old friend that you haven't seen in a long time, you just pick up where you left off. So,
well, if you're bored, you can hang out with me during the news.
Oh, I'm not. No, I don't need to do that. I just
I don't mind. I don't mind if you want to hang out for the news. You're more than welcome.
All right, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do it for part of it. It's like 1:30 in the morning for me, so
either you
and as we discussed, I have to just mute myself, right? Or what do you want me to do?
No, you can hang out. I'll throw to you.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to stick for the whole thing though.
Okay, I'll do it.
All right.
I'll commit. I'm committing right now.
All right, let's do it. Full commitment. Full on commitment. What do you mean? You're like a night owl. Why are you scared about like 1:30?
Because I didn't sleep last night.
Neither did I. I got abducted by aliens.
I took a power nap earlier, though. I don't know if you had the chance to do that.
No, I did not.
I slept for like an hour and a half from 5 p.m. to 6:30, and it was great. It was just great.
I would love to power nap right now.
Oh, I'm a really good power napper. I'm like a queen of power napping.
Not me. Like when I go, I go.
When I'm out, I'm out. Yeah, apparently you go to like alien abduction land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is very true. That is very true. Honestly, I'm still worn out from it.
Yeah, that's so intense. I've had a lot of like pretty intense dreams, but I had a really intense dream the other night that I woke up and thought I must have been listening to a podcast that was narrating it, because and just go like this when you want me to stop talking, just like or you do the little like roundy thing. But in the dream, I was investigating the murder of a woman who had adopted a child from the Ukraine and had then mysteriously gone missing. And in this dream, I'm like walking through this mansion and I can see how she's had things separated. And I thought I must. And then when I woke up, I didn't have my headphones. I wasn't listening to anything. My sick mind had invented. You know, that's what I do in my spare time is I write short horror stories, typically about female.
I want to write a book with you.
Murderers.
I totally want to write a book with you.
Yeah, you started a book.
I know. I have to finish 2 to...
I know. It's okay. It's okay. I understand.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do need you though to as we got like 19 seconds here. I do need you to read and colorize my biography.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're good at that. And you love me.
And I love you.
Hold on, my dear. Here we go.
Buy me drinks in Vegas.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, let's get to it, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the oddball. And Varla Ventura has decided to actually join us for the news tonight because she wants to hang out. She listens to this all the time, so she's like, I'm going to hang out. So, Varla, we're going to kick things off right here. A Reddit user who joined an online dating site quickly learned that you need to be careful with what you put in your bio. You know why? Apparently, she attracted a slew of drug dealers. Well, so this young lady, she went viral on the message board after sharing a screenshot of her bio that said she had posted onto the unnamed dating site. The user's account bio reads, "Just looking for an oxytocin fix." Not OxyContin, oxytocin fix. And to be on my way, given oxytocin is a hormone that commonly referred to as the love drug, as it's released during hugging and orgasm. It is surely pretty clear what she's after, right? I think she wants to make sweet love by the fire, you know? I really do. So, Unfortunately for her, though, and she's a beautiful young lady.
She's craving contact.
Craving contact. That's a good politically correct way to put it. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately for her, people started messaging her offering oxy, as in oxycodone or OxyContin. One user wrote, "So you're looking for oxy?" She goes, "LOL, oxytocin is a naturally produced hormone. It's the love cuddle chemical our brains produce." Another, also eager to help, said, "So I've got a morphine hookup. Would that work?" She says, "Well, seeing as I'm a former opiate addict, I'm going to have to give that one a hard pass, though I appreciate the gesture." So far from being demoralized, the apparent drug dealer countered, "Got you. So you're saying we should stick to amphetamines?" Unsurprisingly, she didn't reply.
Unclear on the concept.
You know, I'm the type of guy, that if this was happening to me, I would totally, go down to the police station, get all these people busted. I would. I'm that guy, because especially after my nephew passed away from fentanyl overdose, I would totally do that. Totally. Out them big time.
I do wonder, though, if she had already admitted that she was a former addict, then she would understand just saying something like oxy would potentially be a trigger. So maybe she was just looking for someone smart that could actually read her bio.
Probably. But good on her for kicking the habit. Good on her for kicking the habit.
100%.
That's a winner.
Yeah.
She's a winner.
Yep. She's a winner.
You know, probably, you know what? If anybody out there finds a whatever dating site it is, I don't know which one, but you know what? Hit her up. That girl is a winner. A winner. She is.
Do not hit her up with drugs.
No, don't offer. You might strike out there.
She's smarter than that.
All right, so a guy named Jody Fleming, realtor, part-time DJ, was hosting a virtual dance party when all of a sudden, not even a knock at the door flies open and he gets a surprise visitor. So who came to party? Well, let me tell you. A black bear.
Oh.
So this happened in North Carolina, and there is footage of this online, which shows Fleming sitting there spinning his discs inside his home, bopping along to the music, when the bear all of a sudden pops up on the other side of the storm door behind the DJ. In the video, the bear stands up, leans against the door, and appears to be listening happily to the music. Eventually, Fleming turns around and realizes he has an audience, and after being spotted, the bear's like, "Oh crap, dude, thanks for ruining my party," and the bear scampers off, because bears don't really like people. The guy says, "I just started playing and kind of got into the first track. I kept hearing this sound, didn't really know what was going on. I thought it was my neighbor, but no, it was a black bear getting down on the riffs." That's kind of cool. It's kind of cool, actually.
Indeed. Very cool.
Yeah, so, yeah, the clip now has over 51,000 views. And after our show's done, it will have like 51,012. All right, one of the most iconic buildings in the world is now running on clean electricity. Can you guess which one? Anybody?
Empire State Building.
It is the Empire State Building.
Oh, I got it.
That's right. All right. So apparently the skyscraper in the heart of Midtown is all on wind power now. The 3-year power purchasing agreement also encompasses 13 other high-rises and office buildings under Empire State Realty Trust's ownership, making it the single biggest commercial real estate user of renewable power anywhere in the United States. The Empire State Building itself has been running on renewables for a decade. Now, according to the media, the switch to wind power will result in savings of 450 million pounds of carbon dioxide, which is equal to the emissions from New York's taxi fleet for an entire year, or 12 cows on some farm in Wisconsin. It comes after the building announced last year's retrofits it completed on everything from windows to installing LED lights on its famous sphere, resulted in reducing its carbon footprint by 40%. That's actually kind of cool.
That's very cool. It's impressive.
All right. Do you know who Bison Man is?
Yes.
All right. Well,
unfortunately,
Bison Man here apparently got his way in court. So a federal judge in Washington, D.C. has granted an emergency request from Bison Man's lawyer that he be given organic food in jail because jail food is not good enough for him. No. In a brief hearing, the lawyer, Jacob Chansley, told the judge that his religious belief, or no, this is Bison Man, Jacob Chansley, said that his religious beliefs require him to eat only organic food. Chansley and his legal team told the judge that appropriate food should be labeled USDA organic and would be available at most grocery stores. The judge asked whether this was a sincere religious belief, to which was replied, it was. So officials at the D.C. Department of Corrections now, and the taxpayer, now has to pay for QAnon shaman to have organic food because he refuses to touch anything else. And because of his hunger strike, because he's not getting his way, he's lost 20 pounds after not eating in over a week. You know, I just want to strangle. I do.
Ever.
Mm-hmm. You know, like,
I know.
I don't even know where to start with this. I don't, you know what? The horrible part about it is that sets a bad precedence. It sets
so stupid.
Like everybody can eat anything. You know, you can, like, look, I don't like eating fish, but if I was hungry, I would eat fish. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, that entire, I mean, obviously he has money and he's a privilege if he can hire a lawyer to get him organic food in a jail. So I think that says enough right there.
Exactly. Reminds me of the kid, thank you, Corrence, the booking guy, the 5-year-old kid who stole his parents' Dodge Journey in Utah because he had $3 in his pocket, wanted to drive to California to buy a Lamborghini. This happened about a year ago. And the kid didn't even get disciplined. He got rewarded with a ride in a Lamborghini. Because the Lamborghini people thought it was cool.
Right? All the parents were just like, you did what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Lamborghini people were like, publicity stunt, sweet, this cute kid. Mm-hmm. And the parents were like, sorry, what?
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto gets the kid a ride in a Lamborghini. Anyone else tried that, we would be in jail. So, a moose... A moose has kicked and injured a hiker in Montana after charging at him and his companion. The incident happened this past weekend near the town of Ennis in the southwest of the state. 2 men in their 70s were hiking along the U.S. Forest Service Trail, popularly known as Jack Creek Trail, around 10 miles east of Ennis, when they encountered this big bull moose standing a few yards to the side of the path. So what do? They stand there, and they're like, that's a big moose. Now, after spotting the 2 hikers, the moose started charging at them. In response, the men rushed to a safe place to hide, with one standing behind a tree and the other took cover underneath a fallen tree. The moose approached the man who hid under the tree and kicked him, leaving the hiker with non-life-threatening injuries. He's lucky. The other hiker managed to scare away the moose without sustaining any injuries. The injured hiker sought assistance, where he was given the A-OK. Now, that is a nightmare. Like, moose are big. They're like 1,100 pounds.
And they're pretty aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not happy animals. Not happy animals.
View one from a distance.
I have yet to see a bull moose up here. I've seen moose.
I've not seen a moose in Minnesota yet. I'm waiting. That's when I know I'm official. When I see a moose.
Moose are cool. I really like moose. They taste good too, by the way. They do. So last week we told you this story about the Texas Department of Public Safety accidentally having one of their calls go out on an Amber Alert, which was just a test run. So the Amber Alert message that went out, in case you missed this one, was about a missing child that was pretty much Child's Play villain Chucky. Because they made it up. So screenshots of the message, because it was a test. It was a computer test that accidentally went live. So the alert was sent out to test, and it malfunctioned. So the DPS, otherwise known as the Department of Public Safety, says, we apologize for the confusion this may have caused and are still diligently working to ensure this does not happen again. So the unusual text message listed Glenn from 2004's Seeds of Chucky as the missing child. Both Glenn and Chucky were described as having red and auburn hair, blue eyes, with their height and weight reflecting their fictional size in the Child's Play horror franchise. First released in 1988, the film's plot centers around the soul of a serial killer possessing a toy doll. The film gained a cult following after its release and has spawned a handful of sequels and remakes. U.S. media reports suggest the fake warning message was sent out 3 times via email. The Amber Alert system was first developed in the United States in 1996, seeking to send vital information out fast so the public can help assist and identify children in immediate danger. All right, Chucky.
This is one of those you had one job scenarios.
Very much so. So there's this bridge in Illinois. The historic Illinois Bridge has a very low clearance. I think we've all seen the YouTube channel or the YouTube videos on this. So for the 14th time in the last year, a truck, too big, goes and crashes into the bridge and now needs repairs. Yeah, witnesses said they saw the truck approaching the bridge on Robert Parker Coffin Road in Long Grove, and it was apparent that the truck and the top of it was going to collide with the bridge cover, and so much it did. John Kopecki said he was outside his business with a friend when they saw the truck heading towards the bridge and shouted for it to stop. However, truck driver didn't hear it, and you know what that means. Say goodbye to your truck. Lake County Sheriff's Office said 13 previous reports of the bridge being struck by oversized vehicles were recorded since it reopened after repairs in August 2020. Officials say the crash did not cause any serious damage to the structure. The bridge was struck by a bus just one day after its initial reopening and was struck a second time the following day while a news crew was recording a segment of the incident. Moving on.
That's an
Here's a hockey
engineering
one.
fail.
Here's a hockey one.
Yay.
A New Jersey man expecting a shipment of accessories for his clothing company instead opened a box to find a bundle of hockey sticks intended for Washington Capitals star Zdeno Chara. Zdeno Chara. Spell that for me. Don't look it up.
Charo.
No.
No.
Zdeno.
Oh, the first name.
Yeah. Anyways, Ariel Ben Abraham, owner of the clothing company Create Supply, said he usually receives FedEx packages every day for his business, so it wasn't unusual for him to have received a package, but the size of the box did give him pause. Ben Abraham said he was even more confused when he opened it and discovered more than a dozen jumbo-sized hockey sticks. The sticks were sent from a company called True Hockey and were intended for Washington Capitals defenseman Zdeno Chara. This has to take the cake as the strangest thing I've gotten by mistake, he said. Future Hall of Famers hockey sticks for the tallest player in NHL history? That's crazy. Those odds don't even make sense. Ben Abraham tweeted about the hockey sticks on Twitter, and the post went viral and caught the attention of True Hockey officials. We got the first notice around 5 p.m. It was a little bit confusing, said Corey Gregory of True Hockey. However, there is a young man posting in New Jersey that he had sticks. Then I looked at the box and saw that it was intended for the Washington Capitals and thought, oh my God, those are Charas. The shipping label for the Capitals practice facility was listed on the packaging label, so True Hockey went to FedEx for answers. The shipping company told Gregory that the tracking information for the package indicated it was at a facility in Memphis. That's a little bit different. You know, they said they couldn't do anything until they knew they were missing, so we took it into our own hands. Gregory said the company is now making plans to have the sticks picked up from Ben Abraham and hopefully have them delivered to the Capitals while they are in New York this week for a game against the Rangers.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, and Charles like 6'7" or something,
6'9".
right? 6'9". Yeah. So these aren't just like regular size hockey sticks.
I remember him playing junior for the Prince George Cougars. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. Let's call it the Thought of the Varla today. Thought of the Varla. What do you think monsters and cryptids do during the winter? Varla. Another Varla. No, this is you. They get desperate for blood. Marty. They hibernate. Twin Rose. For the big hairy one, Sasquatch and Dogman, I think it's life as usual. Marty. The same as the rest. They either go south or they hibernate. Varying definitions. All right, moving on. Let's see here. John, that would depend on the monster or cryptid. Richard thinks they go to Florida. Tim, Miami to visit relatives. Bob, almost no orb sighting in March. I think they do maintenance in March. Tom, they eat fewer humans. Steven says they spoon to keep warm. Joe, that's when they hide under your bed.
Ooh.
Ron, who I used to work with in radio, his famous line for the weather, cloudy and clear. Every night was cloudy and clear. Anyways, he says, they just lay there. Chris, sit outside our windows looking in, shivering. Because, if they're cold, you should bring them inside. Another Chris, it's cold, so I would imagine they would build a fire, make popcorn, drink some whiskey, and make baby monsters and baby cryptids.
Sounds fun.
Barry, he's going skiing. Thinks they're going skiing. Dana, they fly south to their rental homes in Palm Desert and play golf and terrorize the snowbirds. Dave, take their winter break with the rest of Congress. That's funny. Davey, they make snowmen and snow cryptids.
Aww.
Catherine, depends where they live, ski, snowboarding, or being altruistic and shoveling, the walks and driveways of senior citizens at night when they are less likely to be seen. Or maybe they go to Hawaii to surf. Gary believes they go skiing. Science Bob, they go to other dimensional resorts. Ask Varla how to get there. Caden, some hibernate, some migrate. Mark, drink cocoa by the fire and listen to SOR. Probably.
Yeah.
Robert, they have Roman cryptid orgies.
Wow.
Right out there. Greg, they probably freeze their nuggets off like the rest of us do, all while scaring the heck out of us. Kevin, Dave, I cannot speak for past years, but this season they have been lounging around at the Witkowski compound in eastern Pennsylvania. Good one. Ann, depends. Sir Can, change hemispheres? Steve, well, we'll give Steve the final word tonight. He says, no, we won't, because there's another good one. He says, Sudoku, crossword puzzles, wonder word, etc. Ron says they're bumping uglies. Final word goes to, actually, we got two more. Nikki says, hunker down as best possible in caves and underground areas. Hunt, try to find deer or wildlife to kill. Rick gets the final word tonight. They eat breakfast for dinner. It's terrible. Terrible
Zing.
cryptids. Thank you, Varla Ventura, for coming on the show.
Thanks for letting me hang a little longer. That was fun.
Absolutely. And thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Day on Facebook and Twitter. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the news. And, of course, varlaventura.net is her website. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and our website, and all the Starkers and Starkettes, including you, Goddess Michelle, hanging out on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, say it with me, Varla, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but tomorrow, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, yes, we've got room for them too. Good night.